everybody and welcome to a Cardinal Valley how-to. I'm Thomas and today I'm going to show you how to care and maintain your wood cutting board. This is a question we get quite frequently, so hopefully these tips and tricks will help you, and if you do follow them, it will help you get the most of your board and make it last a lifetime. Today we're going to go through how to wash your board, how to dry it, and most importantly, what we always get the questions about is how to oil and wax your board and when you need to do that. Right, so first up is how do we wash our wood cutting boards? We just chopped up all of our veggies and now we need to give this a wipe down. So what we want to do is we want to hand wash this. We never put them through the dishwasher. Dishwashers are awful for wood products. The heat and the amount of water a dishwasher uses, this will eventually over time either crack or warp. So we want to make sure we always hand wash it. We're going to wash and rinse with warm water, and if we need to use any soap, we're just going to use a little bit of regular dish soap, whether that's your Sunlight or your Dove, whatever you use. So washing is pretty straightforward. Drying is a little bit more complicated. So when wood dries, we want to make sure your board dries every side evenly. So if we lay this flat down on a towel to dry, chances are this board is going to warp because the top is drying faster than the bottom. So we always want to make sure when we dry our boards that we stand them up on an edge. So it can either be the long edge here, or even better yet, stand them up on the short ledge, just like this. If you do need to lay them flat to dry, you want to use some sort of block, something underneath it to lift it up off the floor a little bit. That way air can get underneath the board as well and it's going to dry both sides evenly. Some wood cutting boards have legs on them, and that might be enough to lay them flat on the legs and still have enough gap for airflow to flow underneath them. Now we're going to get into the fun stuff, how to oil and wax your board. But first, why do we do it? Well, the more you use your board, the more it's exposed to water. Over time, your wood cutting board will dry out a little bit. So we'll want to make sure to prevent it from drying out. We'll occasionally wax it. If it's already starting to dry out, then we might want to oil and wax it as well. There are a lot of different cutting board oil and wax products out there. Typically, most cutting board oils are mineral oil based and waxes are going to be beeswax based. Here at Cardinal Valley Farm, we always prefer using the walrus oil cutting board oil and the walrus oil wood wax for cutting boards. Both of these are 100% food contact safe, and they're made from beeswax, pure mineral oil, coconut oil, and vitamin E. So let's get down to how we oil and wax. So what we have here is a well-used cherry edge grain cutting board that's already starting to dry out, so it's going to need a coat of oil and a coat of wax. Before we apply any oil and wax to any wood cutting board, we want to make sure we give it a good clean. So we're just going to go wash it down in the sink real quick and we'll be right back. Alright, and we're back. So the board's been washed, it's fully dry, and now it's time to get down to work. So the first step here for us today is we're going to do a light sand on the board. If we run our hand across the board, it almost has a little bit of a fuzzy feeling to it. What you're feeling is the wood grains slightly rising because of its exposure to water over time. So we want to try to get it nice and smooth again. So we're going to take an 800 grit piece of sandpaper and we're just going to give it a quick sand. When we sand, we want to make sure we hit both sides and all four edges of the board. Alright, so now we're done our light sanding. We got both sides done and all four edges. Now we're going to just take a piece of paper towel and we're going to just make sure we wipe the board down to get any of the dust off of it. So now we have a clean board that's been sanded, it's smooth again, and now it's time to add in the oil. Now we're going to grab either a clean blue shop towel, microfiber cloth, a rag, whatever you have, just make sure it's clean, and we'll apply a very generous coat of cutting board oil to both sides and all four edges of our board. So we've applied the oil to both sides and all four edges of our board, and now the not so fun part, we've got to wait The cutting board oil will take about 8 to 24 hours to set. Really all depends on how dry your board is or how much oil you used. And similar to when you're washing and drying the board, we don't want to set this flat on a surface for any risk of warping. So we're either going to let it dry up on its edge, or we can use a couple blocks to lay it flat and leave a gap for air underneath the board. It's been about 8 hours and the oil is fully set in our board. We're going to take another clean cloth or rag and we're just going to wipe off any of the excess oil on the surface of the board. Now the board is ready for its top coat of wax. The nice thing with the top coat of wax is it will add extra protection against moisture and water. It's a lot denser than the cutting board oil, so we're just going to apply a very thin layer of wax again to both sides and all edges of our board. We're going to apply it with a clean shop towel, cloth, or rag, again whatever you have. We've got our wax applied to all sides of the board, and now the waiting game again. Luckily with the wax, it's not as long as the oil. You just have to leave this here to set for about 15 to 30 minutes. We don't want to leave it flat on the table. Either stand it up on its side or use some blocks underneath to create that air gap. So we're just going to stand this up on its side for about 20 minutes and we'll be right back. We let the wax set for about 20 minutes here. And what we're going to do is take another clean cloth and we're just going to buff off any of the remaining wax on the surface. We want to do a quick buff, circular motion all over the surface of the board. And we'll repeat this on every side of the board. And that's it. We've oiled and waxed this board. As you can see, the colors look a little bit darker. Oiling and wax will pop that color back out, make the board look great, and it's going to add that extra layer of protection against moisture and water, and it's all set to go. We hope these tips and tricks can help you. If you have any questions, you can drop them down in the comments below. Thanks for listening.